Hi, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and guess what? This week I have a fun one. Sometimes I'll do boring plugins. I always keep coming up with a new plugin, and granted, some of them aren't the most exciting things in the world, but I don't know, I feel as if this is something that might be a little bit more interesting, and it's called GlitchShifter. Some people know what this is, but if you don't, this is a fine time for me to show you. It's a little something that works kind of like this. But that is a no pitch shift. It's just drifting a little bit. GlitchShifter is essentially a pitch shifter plugin that doesn't smooth or interpolate its cycles at all. It uses this complicated algorithm to try to find zero crossings in the audio it's working with so that it can splice changes in the speed that it's playing back seamlessly. So rather than softening things, it kind of grits things up. And I can demonstrate that by playing a little bit more and doing some changes in the pitch shifting like this. Also, you'll notice that it is GlitchShifter, so it's not a perfectly tracking, pitch shifters never perfectly track, but this one's willing to go quite far out. And you haven't seen what the tightness control does yet, but I'll be showing that to you momentarily. Let's take it up a bit. Now we still have sort of some of the same tonal characteristics of the original one. Like you probably heard this track before. So rather than being a blurry version of this that's all smoothed out, all of the edge is still there. And it's even there by, like the tone sort of sharpens itself up a little bit. Works also if you're slowing down too. And you can feed back. So yeah, you might find that a little strange. And of course we have the dry wet. So what we can do is, let's see, what would be good? Pick a tone like maybe my bass or something and use that to do a harmonizer effect, but you'll hear the differences. So if we're not doing pitch shifting, here's our dry wet. And if we're doing pitch shifting, that's actually rather extreme pitch shifting. This one you have to be delicate on the trim control to do a doubling effect because it will do an octave up. So if you set it delicately enough, you can get a doubly effect. And since the two channels don't always track each other perfectly, even though this is a mono signal, it's still not necessarily going to track stuff perfectly. So what you'll get is an interesting kind of stereo effect thing. I can be doing more things with this in future. I might refine this a little bit. But used on a stereo track with a mono signal, it will tend to break stuff into double stereo glitching. Or we can, let's see, Option to get the exact 0, not in. Six semitones up. And we have a nice octaver, except for it's a fifth. So this is your classic, hang on. Let's play Owner of a Lonely Heart. How's that grab you? Now, I know what you're saying. How tightly is that tracking? I'm going to show you a trick. This is a GlitchShifter trick. I have not touched one of these knobs yet. Check out what happens when I do this. We're tightening the buffer space it has to switch over, and what that's going to do is track it much more tight but glitchier. And of course, since this is a Airwindows thing, we get to exaggerate it, so that's full glitch. And then at 1, it's basically a 0 length buffer. So now we have a whole series of insanity going on, or we can use it as an octave multiplier. But you say, what's the opposite side of the tightness look like? I'll show you that too. But what fun would that be without some feedback? And with the tightness that low, the buffer size it's working on is huge. So it's almost not connected to the original sound at all. And it's smoothing out the crazy pitch shifting. Or let's do the opposite. How about an octave divider? Same deal. With the tightness as low as it can go, it's almost completely not connected to the raw sound. But it's also a lot smoother as far as the glitchy transitions as you're sort of retracking it. And there's our fifth up again. And let's do a third. Let's see, major or minor third? Oh, I just did the pitch, actually. So that was weird. Let's get that solo back again. Tightness is the one I'm going for. Increase the tightness, and it will be linked more closely to the underlying sound. Pretty much as close as you might want, like, until you start hearing the glitchiness. That glitchiness starts to become obvious here. And then feedback. How's that for an interesting tone? It would be fun if I had a vocal to play with this on, but you get the basic idea. It's doing some wild and crazy stuff. there you have it. Airwindows GlitchShifter, a flawed and or failed pitch shifter. And I say that because it's probably either going to give you sort of glitchy, gnarly artifacts or get wildly out of sync. So this doesn't behave the way normal pitch shifters do, but the advantage of that here, let me go back to my camera view. Boop. The advantage of that is that you can make some really outlandish noises with it. And isn't that really what we like doing with these plugins? It is always a pleasure to me when I can come up with something that is just kind of off the hook. And GlitchShifter is a wonderful example of exactly that. In fact, it's not quite like the original GlitchShifter that I put out audio unit only sort of back in the day. Because, you know, a thing that the original GlitchShifter did not do is when I put it out, I didn't have the code optimized to lower pitches. It only raised pitches. So in pouring it over and making the new version, I included the dropping pitches an octave as well as putting them up an octave. By the way, it stacks. So node and trim stack. You can take it up a fifth and then detune it slightly, or you can take it up an octave and then up 2 octaves, if that's the sort of thing that pleases you. And it also works pretty well at high sample rates. Like, this is a 96K project, and as you heard, it tracks that just fine. Because if you're running at an insanely high sample rate, the node and trim are going to behave exactly the same. But tightness will need to be a lower setting at very high sample rates because it needs to take a bigger bite of the audio to give an equivalent amount of time to do that with. So yeah, there you have it. GlitchShifter is, like my other plugins, Patreon supported. And what I mean by that is people are supporting my Patreon. That's why I'm still here doing this. In fact, that is why you have PitchShifter at all, because if I wasn't being Patreon supported, I'm not sure that I would have been doing this continuously for over 2 years of Patreon support. Mind you, I was doing it for 10 years previously, but when I switched over to that because Kagi Shareware went out of business, people being able to support me doing this let me do it full-time, and that's how I got around to doing GlitchShifter after all those other ones that I've done. And I would have to say that that was well worth it. I'm also going to say that, as you can well imagine, I can think of some things to do with this that can be sort of variations on the theme that will help you in various contexts. It's not the neatest, like as far as super duper high quality persuade you that it's literally the same audio again. This is not that kind of pitch shifter. This is not the kind that's like, okay, let's break everything down into an FFT transform, and actually that's like saying an ATM machine. Break things down to an FFT and then reconstruct it. And for that reason, it'll hiccup, it'll like click or sputter or grind, but it will give you a tonality that's different from what you get out of the really highfalutin, high CPU ones. It's a little rawer, and I feel that's going to come in useful. So just because it changes the tone into something a little rawer and crunchier, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because you don't necessarily have this tone on tap. But now you do, because GlitchShifter is audio unit, Mac, Windows, and Linux VST, and it is downloadable for free because I'm supported by their Patreon. So if you're super wildly excited by this, and you would have bought it for $50 a pop to own forever, and also you get the source code and get to do your own variations on it if you want. This is a somewhat lenient licensing scheme, It's like you get kind of a lot for your $50 that way, but that's the open source thing for you. If you would do that, then jump on the Patreon, kick another $50 a year my way, and then a year from now, look and see if I've done another plugin that you like. Maybe I have. In any case, that's how that works. The reason that I'm still here doing this is because it does work. And I am actively working on some stuff that I'm not talking about right now that is not necessarily even plugins, but I've had some serious breakthroughs in some of the plans I'm developing as far as getting tools for analog hardware making into people's hands. I've come up with some stuff that I'm very excited about. And I'm looking forward to showing you what I mean by that. But that'll come later. So that's like fall, winter, stuff like that. When it comes together, you will know. Until then, I hope you like GlitchShifter. I certainly have my fun with it. It's not the type of effect that I use constantly, but that says maybe. Fact is, it is a very you could use this for all kinds of crazy things, and I'm assuming that is what people are going to do. And nothing would please me more. So, on that note, I'm Chris from Airwindows, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.